1580.
Welcome forward. That's the show. It's been a very difficult day for progressives across our country. I want to thank Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner for an outstanding hour just before our hour while they were talking. So much has transpired. In just moments away, Donald Trump is going to sign an executive order beginning the dismantling of the Department of Education. The ramifications of that executive order are so vast, so broad, we could talk about it for weeks on end. But the one signal that it definitely sends is that Brown versus the Board of Education is definitely on the chopping block. The Department of Education was founded in 1979 during the end of the Jimmy Carter administration, a major contribution to civil rights. Beyond Brown versus the Board of Education, there were two cases, Brown 1 and Brown 2. The second case called for the desegregation of schools, equal education with all deliberate speed. But one state at a time, one county at a time, one city at a time, one township or local jurisdiction at a time proved unworkable. And therefore, the federal government set up the United States Department of Education for the purposes of overseeing the civil rights progress of every single American in the various jurisdictions. There are 95,000 public schools in 50 states, 3,600 county-based education systems, 20,000 or more different municipal educations, and thousands of township-based education systems. The Department of Education is the one coordinating body to make sure that civil rights law is enforced, disability law is enforced, the treatment of students and diversity and the quality of education, including Native American history, African American history, women's history, are taught in the public schools systems so that each succeeding generation will be better able to handle what it means to be an American. Since Cornel West and Nina Turner were on the news, the DC U.S. Attorney began targeting Congressman Vindman. You might remember Congressman Vindman as the whistleblower during the Ukraine crisis during Trump's administration. Donald Trump appointed a MAGA United States attorney who's carrying out Donald Trump's campaign of retribution. A judge has decided to no longer hear any cases about the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, standing off with the Institute of Peace. They are now going into the Institute of Peace, a private, not-for-profit organization, and undermining its mission, its message, its research, its purpose, and the broad reach that the Institute of Peace has around the world. Since the break, we have heard from many Americans across the country who are deeply concerned that more than 67,000 South Africans are answering Donald Trump's call to come to the United States as refugees. These are South Africans who benefited under apartheid, but now claim that they are being discriminated against by the majority African government in South Africa. That means 67,000 people who like the idea of segregation becoming our fellow citizens. An easy path to citizenship, including but not limited to one day having the right to vote. And the kinds of practices that they practiced under apartheid are not the kind of practices that we have not seen here in the United States since Jim Crow, since first Reconstruction, when the newly freed men were freed from slavery. 67,000 people whose attitudes and dispositions about Black representation in Congress, in the Senate, about voting for a Black president in South Africa, run contrary to the basic fabric of what it means to be an American. Donald Trump seems to be rounding up from Greenland to South Africa disaffected white folks and bringing them here to the United States of America for the sole purposes of having refugee status and protection by the Constitution of the United States. The same Constitution of the United States that at this hour is failing women. It's failing the disabled. It has historically, without and before agitation, failed African Americans. It has failed the LGBTQ community. And yet they want, knowing none of America's history, not even required to understand who Jackie Robinson was, whose name was removed from the website at Arlington National Cemetery, and African Americans like the Tuskegee Airmen, whose names have now been reinstated at Arlington National Cemetery, but their contributions are being erased. So 67,000 South Africans get to come back or come to the United States and become citizens while ignoring the real American history. When we come forward, I'm going to introduce our very special guest, Dr. Tara Hrabowski-Blackman, who has some thoughts on some of these matters, but mostly she is one of the nation's leading cardiologists. And we will be discussing health, heart health in the African American community and in our nation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, you'll be listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The revolution will not be televised.
What's up? It is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render, and I'm encouraging you to listen to more, not less, of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part, they accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right. So we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
For a limited time at Verizon, you can get our best price ever. That's 4 lines on unlimited welcome for just $25 a line per month with autopay plus taxes and fees. You'll also get the new iPhone 16 Pro, 4 of them for the entire family when you trade in up to 4 phones from our top brands. That's a new phone for everyone, only on the network you can count on. Verizon. Visit a store today. 20 monthly promo credits applied over 36 months with a new line on unlimited welcome. In times of congestion, unlimited 5G and 4G LTE may be temporarily slower than other traffic. Domestic data roaming at 2G speeds. Additional terms apply for phone offer. See Verizon.com for details.
KBLA Talk 1580 is pleased to announce that, like George and Weezy,
We're moving on now.
earlier this year, we were named as semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Wait for it. Wait for it.
You ready?
KBLA Talk 1580 was recently selected as one of 10 finalists being considered for this prestigious award. Hundreds of organizations, institutions, and even cities were nominated in the selection process. But KBLA Talk 1580 has made it to the finals. You're invited to watch live on Wednesday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, as Eco America announces the winner and the runner-up, awarding over $200,000 in prize money. To watch live, just go to ecoamerica.org to register and attend the online ceremony. That's ecoamerica.org. Don't miss the presentation of the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025, Wednesday, April 16th, and wish us luck. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black. Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, where our very special guest is Dr. Tara Grabowski-Blackman. She is an accomplished cardiologist practicing at the Largo Medical Center in Largo, Florida. After earning her undergraduate degree from the University of Chicago and her medical degree from the Indiana University of Medicine, Dr. Grabowski-Blackman finished her internal medicine residency at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. Afterwards, she moved to Detroit, Michigan to complete her cardiovascular disease, advanced heart failure, and transplantation fellowship at the Henry Ford Heart and Vascular Institute. In addition, she has obtained board certification in internal medicine, cardiovascular disease, echocardiography, and nuclear cardiology. Throughout her career, Dr. Grabowski-Blackman's commendable merits have earned her various recognitions: Best Atlanta's Magazine 2017, the Best Heart Doctor, and a place in Atlanta Tribune's Women of Excellence class of 2018. She's an active member of African American and the American College of Cardiology, where she served as a guest presenter during their annual ACC National Conference. She is all of that. And I have a lot more to read and share with you about her bio as the program continues, but I want to be really, really clear. We've had a lot of sharp people on our program, but I'm not so sure we've had anyone as accomplished and as sharp as Dr. Grabowski-Blackman. Dr. Grabowski-Blackman, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You know, this is towards the conclusion of Women's History Month for us, and clearly you are one of those historic figures. African Americans, as you know, die of cardiovascular disease at higher rates than any other member of the population, and stroke. And yet you find yourself as a scientist in that profession at an amazing moment in American history when the federal government, its politics, are cutting research dollars, cutting funding that created doctors who tend to serve in African American communities. With our viewers, our listeners, could you share with them your thoughts about what this means as a cardiologist and historical figure?
So let me first start off. It was funny. I was listening to what you were going through before we started this segment, and it was a focus on, cutting educational dollars, right? Well, that's how I got here. Right. It took me 15 years of education to become an advanced heart failure and transplant cardiologist. Okay. So, thank God for the fact that, when I was living in Arkansas around the time of, the Clinton quote unquote dynasty, I was able to go to the Arkansas School for Math and Science for free, and thank God, where would I be without that? So that really struck me when you said that, because we all know that it makes a difference when I walk into a room and see a patient that looks like me, right? And we all know there's, again, as you mentioned, research has shown that, patients do better, have better outcomes when they're treated by physicians that look like them. It's just a fact. Physicians that can speak the same language, that know some of the same cultural ins and outs, right? You can't treat everyone the same.
The Institute of Medicine's report in 2001 said that was the number one factor in why African Americans wouldn't see a physician in the first place. They couldn't find an African American woman. They couldn't find an African American male who was a physician who would understand their cultural identities.
Absolutely. And again, that's very important. I mean, myself, a lot of times, when I'm going to the doctor and I'm trying to find a primary care physician, the first thing I say is there a woman? I need someone who can understand my unique situation, my unique needs. Like I said, you can't prescribe the same medication. And we all know, a lot of us in the medical field know there are different pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics that occur between, whites and blacks. So you can't, have this cookie cutter, prescription pad saying, well, I'm going to prescribe this same medication for every single person that comes through these doors. It's just not physiologically sound, right? And it's not, and you're going to have patients that are disappointed because they're not having the same outcomes as maybe some other people that they know.
Dr. Rabowski, you talked about growing up in Arkansas and getting that unique opportunity in math and science. I'm wondering, given your class, and not just your class at the various institutions that you attended, but the class of Black women who matriculated through medical school and went into various areas of specialty, what does the cut in your imagination to federal support for these programs and even state support for these programs, what does the next class look like with the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, let me just be very clear. You know, some of the places that I've worked, I've been the only. So, you know, and I think as you get higher and, you know, more advanced in your education, you know, it starts to look very, very lonely. And I have to be very honest. I don't know if this is some of the reason why you don't have more of us at that level, because it sometimes, I guess that adage, it's lonely at the top. Not saying I'm at the top, but I'm just saying it is lonely. It is very hard to. Sometimes it's very hard to find connections at work and things like that, because you know for a fact that our struggles aren't the same. You know, when I walk into a room, I get called nurse when I'm actually right.
Wow.
Or can you get me some water? And I do. Absolutely, I do. Right. I am there to serve. Right. I am there to serve. I'm not above anyone. Right. But I walk in with, you know, my male resident intern fellow, and they're the ones that have to make the correction. Like, no, that's the boss.
I know when I first got elected to Congress, and the same thing happened to Congressman Cleo Fields, other members would walk up to us and ask us to go get them a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And like, no, listen, call that intern over there or call that page. Tell them to get 2 cups because I'm your colleague.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, and there's some people who just don't want to go through that. You know, it can be, I think early on, it made me very angry. It's very, you know, dehumanizing when you know you've been through what you've been through to get where you are, and the accolades and things of that nature, and that still you almost say to yourself, still, like still, this is where we are.
My dad often says that as Black professionals, we often have to be superior just to be equal.
Oh, agree with him completely.
Let me ask you this question. What was it like? And I think it would help our listeners understand that the multiple generations of all white male doctors matriculating into institutions of higher learning, never been discriminated against. White women, for the most part, the same pattern, the same path. But when you show up superior just to be equal, math and science major, biology major, cardiologist, cardiovascular surgeon. This isn't someone who just listens to your heart through a stethoscope, is a transplant specialist. She's sitting there waiting for the helicopter to land with a heart from a victim of an accident, ready for transplant, to determine if that heart fits in a donor body. That's who we're talking with today on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. What does that feel like to walk into that room of white men who are less qualified than you are?
So, you know, I look at and at this stage of the game, I look at it as, you know, I am blessed to be a blessing, right? That is just it. And I'm not here to, I guess, you know, boast and brag and things of that nature, because it you know, it's funny when I go out with my friends and things like that, I rarely tell people what I do, you know, because that's not how I want to be first known as being kind, someone that's kind. Now, after that, when, like you said, when I'm at work, it's down to business, it's excellence, because that's how I was trained. Okay. And so what you said, how does it feel? Well, it feels like I'm supposed to be there. So now that is one thing that I don't have. And that is, that sense of I don't think I should be here, but I know I have to be here.
Mm.
You know, there are moments of the imposter syndrome and things like that I think a lot of women in general, white, black, what have you, struggle with at times. But I feel like I have to be here. There's nowhere else that God would want me to be other than here. And according to my husband, I can't cook, so I can't do, it's not a lot else I'm good at. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is what I'm good at. So I feel like this is my purpose. I am in my purpose right now. I'm living in my purpose.
So I want to ask you a semi-difficult question, and I don't want to put you on the spot because by most stretches of the imagination, if I had my old job as a former member of Congress and had to call Dr. Hrabowski Blackman before my committee, she would be obviously sitting there as a witness, but there must be something you would have to say about the cuts to research dollars at the NIH, about a movement to stop vaccinations, particularly from the perspective of African Americans who are entitled to, by their God-given right, to health care of equal high quality. And the idea that so much of this money goes to the training of doctors at Meharry and Morehouse and Howard and Drew and other institutions to ensure that our medical system and provider system is creating the kind of Hrabowski Blackmans that the world deserves and needs. Your answers to the questions and your confrontation with Congress, what would it look like at this hour?
So first, I would have to start with some background, right? When we talk about research, you all have to understand that the treatments that we have right now, okay? So as an advanced heart failure and transplant cardiologist, there's certain medications that we use probably just about for every heart failure patient, for example. You guys have to understand that information is extrapolated for us. You want to know why? Because we weren't included in the clinical trials. Now, some of that could be on, behalf of, the industry that was, or the company that put on the clinical trial. But some of that we have to take our own personal responsibility as well. Because I don't think as African Americans, we were utilizing that platform. Like, yes, I want to be involved in the clinical trial. I want to make sure that this medication is going to work for me and not other races, because we all know there are racial differences, like I mentioned earlier, to medications. So now, unfortunately, we're going to be placed in a situation now we don't have a choice. Because if those research dollars are cut, right, then that's even less of an opportunity for us to be involved in groundbreaking research that could help save thousands and thousands of lives.
Dr. Borowski, break down for us the clinical trials, because African Americans who say, no, I don't want to be part of an experiment. I don't want to be, I got this Tuskegee thing on my mind. My producer, Gina Towns, is saying right now that we have a fear of being guinea pigs.
Yeah.
Break that down for us.
And so it's just so much more regulated than that. Okay. Do you know how much training? So to even be an investigator in a clinical trial, how much training you have to go through? And there are different phases of clinical trials where, it doesn't always, can't start at the human level, right? There are things that's starting at a very rudimentary level, like in a lab, for example. At that level, then it goes through phases before it even gets to humans. So this is not you could never perform something like the Tuskegee trial in 2025. It's just not possible.
And it's just kind of sitting in our minds and in our bodies as some kind of trauma.
It is. And I think, but to that point though, people should address it, should address us and acknowledge and validate our concerns.
I think that's right. I think
I do think they should validate. No, it can't happen, but yes, you should validate my concerns. Yes.
That it did happen. That it did happen.
Acknowledge that it happened. That's it. Acknowledge that it happened. Then maybe we can move forward. But don't act like it never existed, because it did. Yeah. I'm just telling you now, though, it couldn't happen. Just logistically, it couldn't happen. Legally, it couldn't happen. It's so much red tape. And like I said, training and things like that, even for the investigators. So something like that couldn't really be possible nowadays.
You know, I have to, we have just a few moments, and they might, the producers saying you might be too woke. You know, it took an African-American heart surgeon here in Chicago at a local hospital who performed the first open heart surgery. It took others who determined that there are only certain blood types. There's no black blood, there's no white blood, there are certain blood types. And then we arrived at the good science necessary in order to provide the quality of care. When we come forward, Dr. Tara Hrabowski-Blackman is going to help share with us some of the things that we must be doing in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and around our country to have a healthy heart so that you don't find yourself on one of Dr. Hrabowski-Blackman's operating tables. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, we'll be joined and continue our conversation with Dr. Tara Hrabowski-Blackman.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. A bill to ban DEI initiatives at Ohio public colleges is moving closer to becoming law. The House passed an amended version of Senate Bill 1. It bans diversity, equity, and inclusion practices and strikes by faculty members. New York's highest court has struck down non-citizen voting in the city, ruling it unconstitutional. The law signed by Black Mayor Eric Adams in 2022 allowed non-citizens to vote in municipal elections. A civic group is calling for Kansas City manager Brian Platt's removal after a jury ruled he suggested staff lie to the media. The Urban Council sent a letter to Black Mayor Quentin Lewis and the City Council urging his ouster. And President Trump plans to sign an executive order today to eliminate the Department of Education, returning control to states. NAACP President Derek Johnson calls it a dark day for students relying on federal support. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Imagine a photograph of your favorite place in California. Then right in the middle of it, one piece of litter. Litter has no place in our lives, not one piece. Together, let's change that. Clean California. Zero litter is the goal. CleanCA.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers will have to play tonight's home game against Milwaukee without Luka Doncic. Doncic has a sprained right ankle. He played 32 minutes Wednesday night, and the Lakers win over Denver. The Lakers want Doncic to sit out tonight to avoid further injury in a back-to-back game. LeBron is also out tonight. No word yet on LeBron's status. LeBron has been out since March 8th with a groin injury. The UCLA men's basketball team plays their first game tonight in the NCAA tournament. The Bruins, a 7th seed in the Midwest Regional, face number 10 Utah State in Lexington, Kentucky. 6:25 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Casey Wasserman, the agent for hip-hop superstar Kendrick Lamar, said the Compton native will play a major role in the opening ceremonies for the Summer Olympics in LA in 2028. The opening ceremonies are scheduled for July 14th at SoFi Stadium. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
A new day is on the horizon. Behind every great moment in history, there's a woman whose story went untold. This March on KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing those hidden narratives to light. Hear extraordinary stories of women who transformed science, politics, arts, and community. Women you've never heard of, but should know. Celebrating Women's History Month on KBLA Talk 1580, where every story matters.
Stories are power. The Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project is an effort to collect, preserve, and amplify stories of Black land loss. It will form an invaluable resource for scholars, authors, historians, educators, storytellers, policymakers, and change agents who wrestle with issues of restitution, reparations, racial inequality in home ownership, and the racial wealth gap. Through documenting stories of Black land loss, the archive will help demonstrate the magnitude of what Black families have lost and will continue the national dialogue to encourage paths to restitution, rebuilding, and healing. Support the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project by visiting www.blacklandloss.org or by donating at www.blacklandloss.org/donate. Spread the word to inspire awareness, activism, leadership, and change. And join us in making a lasting impact. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it! Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially Black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my Black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. You know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is globally recognized cardiologist and cardiovascular surgeon Tara Hrabowski-Blackman. Dr. Blackman, welcome back to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me back.
You know, I often share with people on our program that everything in history, particularly the history of African Americans, is about the present. From 1619 to the present, it's about this moment. And you are the best and brightest that we have ever created. An African American female, woman, cardiologist, cardiovascular surgeon at the top of her profession. Everything. Martin Luther King speeches. I'm going backwards. Fannie Lou Hamer's protest at the Democratic Convention. The death of Emmett Till.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going backwards. The beginning of Jim Crow. The first African Americans in the Congress during the end of First Reconstruction. Frederick Douglass complaining about July 4th, 1856 in Rochester, New York. All the way back to Nat Turner, raising hell on a plantation. The Negroes fight through that history, now moving forward to the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, Brown versus the Board of Education, the funding of a Federal Department of Education in 1979 has been about this moment, and it all comes together in Dr. Tara Hrabowski-Blackman. It's all, if Tupac was here, it's all about you. The sum of history. And I say that because you shared with us earlier that it took 15 years for you to get your education.
I was broke a long time.
And that was the question I was going to ask you. How much did it cost for you to be you?
Oh my gosh. How much did it cost my parents? Well, you know, so probably say it probably cost probably close to $1 million.
Close to $1 million or more dollars.
When you're speaking of just sheer tuition, you have to understand I've had multiple board certifications, and then to prepare for board certifications means that you're taking, extra board review classes that can be 3,000 each pop. The exams themselves, $2,000 and $3,000 each pop. Undergraduate education, medical education. Then you get paid a little bit during your fellowships and your residency fellowships and things like that. But that's to live. You make probably less than, if you count up all the hours that we worked. And our salary, we probably made less than like an Uber driver or like a delivery person. So yeah, I would say, all of that included, it would probably be upper hundreds, almost $1 million to be this.
It's really interesting that the route that you took, and I'm not suggesting that it's different than anyone else, other than that as an African American, the uniqueness of who you are through that extraordinary journey of our people, that Black men still lag in math and the sciences and the opportunity as well. To what do we owe? Is it the investment? Is it the desire? Is it the familial structure and community that doesn't produce more African American men in the medical profession? Or is it all of the above? And I'm prepared to handle all of that.
I think it's all of the above. I can't speak to other households, right? But I do think that, who I am started in my household. There was a very strong sense of, you work hard to be whatever you want to be. You can be whatever you want to be, whether we can afford it or not. That was, my parents were like, we're so proud of you that you got into medical school. But however, this is, we're going to have to figure out a way, to get you through this. But beyond that, though, there was encouragement at all avenues. My sister is an attorney. My brother is a VP at Citigroup.
Where'd your sister go to law school?
University of Illinois. You know her.
Wait a minute, not Tamika Rabowski.
Tamika Rabowski is my sister.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. She was one of my classmates.
Yes, she was. Yeah. Yeah.
Give Tamika my best.
Yes. So yes, I sure will. But that's the thing. And it's coming from, and my other brother, he didn't go to college. However, he was an entrepreneur. So these things started in the home because neither one of my parents went to college. My mom went back to college when she was 40. She got married when she was 18, had 4 children. And so, but I also grew up on faith, with God behind me, or for me, who can be against me? And that's just how I've always been raised. I've always been prayed over, I guess you could say. So going back to your original question, I think it all starts in the home and what your parents, those in your household, lay as your foundation. Is it education? If that wasn't an important part of, your talk in the home every day, I don't see how you will strive, how you will strive to be, to achieve educational, excellence.
My dad used to say, if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, I know I can achieve it. That was one of his refrains when I was growing up, and he used it in schools all across the country. I'm wondering, however, that even when we're in that environment, Harvard most recently announced in its troubling DEI program, including admission standards, is now being replaced with families under $200,000. They're offering a full scholarship.
I wish I had.
Right. I'm hoping that other institutions will follow Harvard's leadership on that, not race-based, but economic-based. And I'm wondering, beyond the family, the Black family, how big a burden this $1 million or not having the tuition, Dr. Hrabowski, really means to discouraging our people from pursuing the level of excellence that you have in your life?
I have to be honest with you. Just there are times where, I have looked back and been like, oh my God. Especially early on when I was still, paying student loans back. Like, I mean, I went to the University of Chicago. I could have, that was like investment banking school, or if I had gone to business school, something like that. Like I felt like financially, maybe I would have been, much further along, you know what I mean? But then you go back to, well, what were you meant to do? And that's the thing that I feel like I had to focus on, was that, well, this is what I'm meant to do. The financial rewards will come later. And that's honestly, that has to be the mind frame, is delayed gratification. That's the word I was looking, delayed gratification. If you're worried about being rich now, this is not the route. Let me just be completely honest.
In my estimation, it's for you. It's got to be some kind of ministry. I mean, to repair someone's heart, to save someone's heart, to give them extended life, has to be something extremely rewarding to you.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. My very special guest is Tara Hrabowski Blackman. She is one of the nation's leading cardiologists, and she's our special guest. When we come forward, we're going to talk about what we need to do to have a healthy heart. And as I ask all of our guests, I'm hoping that in the final segment, she will end our discussion on a word of hope. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community, educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org. Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. If you own a timeshare, don't miss this public service announcement from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. If you really want out of your timeshare, hang the phone up immediately or throw that mail piece in the trash and contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance with your timeshare. As the only Inc. 500 timeshare cancellation company, our knowledge, experience, and results has made Wesley a trusted resource for over 40,000 families we've helped get out of their timeshare. Give us a call and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about your timeshare and all of your options for cancellation.
Call for your free info kit, 800-511-2112. That's 800-511-2112. 800-511-2112.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, Black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. and welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is global cardiologist, cardiovascular surgeon, Tara Hrabowski-Blackman. Dr. Hrabowski-Blackman received her education at the University of Chicago, medical degree from Indiana University School of Medicine, finished her internship at Rush University Medical Center. Afterwards, she practiced in Detroit and worked at the Henry Ford Heart and Vascular Institute. I'm probably getting some of that wrong, but her resume is so extraordinary. But most importantly, she's committed and dedicated to our community. And unfortunately, we don't have enough cardiovascular surgeons in our community. We almost need to know where you live so we can live close enough in case we have a heart attack to find someone who cares about us. You know, can I opine on just a quick thought?
Mm-hmm.
That in the African-American community, Dr. Hrabowski said it cost about $1 million when she reflects upon her education to create this moment, this mind in this space. But during the break, I was again speaking with our producer, and she said, Jesse, you have to give some life and understanding to what it means to be a physician. This is the moment in our history where when Dr. Hrabowski comes home from college and similarly situated physicians, they know that they've been accepted to medical school. And everyone is sitting around the dining room table, and everyone wants Dr. Hrabowski and others to go to medical school. So the uncle stands up or the aunt stands up in addition to the parents, and they decide to mortgage their house one more time because there's this leap. When I went to North Carolina A&T, I was the second African-American in the history of my family's lineage to ever graduate from college. My dad was the first. My mother never finished college. She went back and was awarded her honorary doctorate. So what it takes to create a Black doctor in the United States are families that come together and they send you food and they pay your rent.
Yes.
And they go to work one more time. Talk to us about that, Dr. Black.
So for me, that was Tamika. That was my sister, and I had a very, very, I had a very good role model in her, in the sense that she went to college when she was 16. She went to law school, worked 2-3 jobs, and still managed to obviously get good grades, pass the bar. So that's another thing too, is having mentors, because that person that you're looking up to may not be in your own family, right? But that's the reason for exposure to different groups, different organizations. So when I was at the Arkansas School for Math and Science, I had a teacher who said, I need you to meet Jocelyn Elders.
The former Surgeon General.
Yeah.
Wow.
She was not Black. This was not a Black teacher. But this was someone who wanted to invest in me, who knew what I wanted to do, knew I loved math and science, and said, you know what? I'm gonna see what I can do. I'm going to expose you. I'm going to expose you to whatever I can. She just wanted to invest in me. And I think if children, young adults aren't finding it in their own home, there are people in the community that are willing to mentor you, that are willing to help you through the process of whatever it is you want to be. And like I said, for me, I was blessed, honestly, to have my sister.
So in a profound way, it becomes a family affair. I mean, it's not just the loan from the government. It's just not the loan from the bank or the school. It's the family says,
absolutely,
we can create a physician here. Here is the acceptance letter. What's it going to take for all of us to make this happen?
And it was, to your point, I did have people sending food. There are multiple times Tamika paid my rent. And, that was what it was when I couldn't work, right? Because I'm there trying to be in that top 25% of my medical school class that I was. I couldn't work. I couldn't do things like that. But, there were people who were just like, yes, I see it in you. Like, I see you working hard. So let me pay it forward.
I think this model, I think it matters, because I'm getting an article across my newsfeed right now that Jim Clyburn, who's actually, I believe, quoting me because I shared this with him when I was in Congress, that if we are not very careful, we could end up in Jim Crow 2.0. And one of the techniques for surviving Jim Crow 2.0 isn't just looking for a loan. Correct. It's sitting around the table when the family comes together and we say, we want to push our DNA a little forward.
Yes.
And yes, we've worked a whole life to retire and take a cruise. But the investment that we make in this one right here is the difference between law school, being a lawyer, a prosecutor, a judge, or being a paralegal, or being someone who is a nurse and being a cardiac physician surgeon. The family makes a decision in Jim Crow that we have to push our people forward in spite of. I don't know if on my show I've actually given a better example of that reality that we may have to confront on the scale that we may have to confront it, given the nature of what's taking place in the country right now, particularly with the idea that some of our HBCUs themselves may find themselves under threat. Dr. Hrabowski?
Yeah, that, hearing that just makes me sad, right? It just, I didn't go to an HBCU. However, some of my mentors, some of my best friends, my community, my village, who helped to form and shape me into who I am. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to come from those at the dinner table, but those, right outside of your door. So that really that should alarm everyone, that we could be losing our future mentors and things like that could be helping our children.
Dr. Hrabowski, we have about 2 minutes before the end of our show. I'd like to give you an opportunity to end on some hope for us.
So, one thing I can say, just, going back to just cardiovascular disease in and of itself, right? We know that's the number one killer in the U.S. Now women are keeping right up. Women ask for equality. Well, we have it in cardiovascular disease, unfortunately. But what I can say is that there's more focus and attention, especially in the African American community. There are more programs that have, encouraged Black women, especially, to get out and exercise. Right, that's one of the risk factors for cardiovascular disease: lack of physical activity. So I see more groups on Instagram and things like that, and TikTok even, where there are more women of color participating in activities like that. So I think there is hope that we're trying to educate ourselves and saying, hey, I want to, like you said, carry on this DNA. And so I have to be healthy to do that. And so we're really taking a serious look and really investing in ourselves. And I think that's the hopeful part, is that we're trying to educate ourselves so that we can move our DNA forward.
Dr. Tara Hrabowski-Blackman has been my very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. From 1619 to the present, it has been about her. It has been about people similarly situated, just like this physician. It has been about families coming together. You got 450 years of good, solid advice that you don't have to figure out for yourself. We need community. We have to turn to each other and not on each other. We have to see our families and our communities not just as those that biologically are part of us. Jocelyn Elders, through another teacher who was not African American, discovered Dr. Hrabowski. And Dr. Hrabowski became one of the nation's leading cardiovascular surgeons and transplant specialists in the United States. Dr. Hrabowski, thank you for spending this time with us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me.
Until tomorrow, everyone.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.